Arguably one of my least favorite bosses at the start of the phase now, because there's different ways to cheese him. The Festering Rotslime boss guide is here. My name's Coyote. Let's get to it.
Stupid Coyote.
Let's talk the boss's three main abilities: Gunk, Slime Time, and Nauseous Gas. Alright, Slime Time, every 3 seconds, the boss is going to get slowly faster. This is where you're going to want to DPS the objects on the wall to knock them down so he will devour them. Once he devours so many objects, he's going to spit them all out, and the buff's going to reset. This kind of does a little bit of AoE damage and does throw out a little bit of gunk, so you're going to want to be ready to dispel that. Gunk is our next ability. It has a priority towards targeting range, and it will slow anybody down that's with it by 75%. Now, this is a disease that can be dispelled, or if you have any movement freeing effects such as shape-shifting or Hand of Freedom, it can also clear this debuff. But you don't want to just do it willy-nilly. We'll get more into that later. Finally, the last ability is the Nauseous Gas. These are the pools that are left behind when you dispel gunk. This is kind of the reason you don't want to dispel it just willy-nilly. These pools do a massive amount of nature damage, and they reduce your casting and attack speed by 75%. Now let's talk a little bit about strategery, because you're going to need it with this boss. This boss is a mechanics, heals, and DPS check. You want to make sure that you're doing everything, because if not, you're just going to get overwhelmed. Starting off, if you have a warlock that has the metamorphosis or a tank build in general, you're going to want to have them tank. You only need one tank for this fight. There's no mechanic that really eats at your tank, so you have all the room in the world just to have somebody else DPS. But a warlock tank will make this fight 10 times easier. Regardless if you have a warlock tank or not, what you're going to want to do is mark one person as range and one person as melee. All right, these are going to be your stack points. Range, what you're going to do is you're going to stack across the right side of the wall. This is a good starting point, and everybody just needs to move as a group. That way, when gunk gets dispelled, it's all in tighter clumps, leaving more room for your melee to bound backwards. This will also help for groups that have a lower DPS threshold and need more time on this boss. If you start filling the room with a bunch of gunks, you're going to run out of room quickly, as the gunk does not disappear. If you don't have a warlock tank who's stacked with a range group, you're going to want to just pick any tank that you have, and they'll be your melee stack point. They're going to want to stand at max range to avoid being devoured. As both groups are bounding back, you're going to want to have some range kind of dot the mask on the wall, and that way they're kind of being knocked down in the path of the boss. Now, you don't want to destroy these things too early, because after 5 seconds, they despawn, making them useless. Going back to having a warlock in your group, if he casts Unending Breath on a few of your melee, they can actually sit inside the boss and just DPS. Now, they require a little bit more heals, but it's nothing that's unmanageable by a decently geared group. We found out that the magic number is about 3, because if you add 2 more objects to him, the boss will stop, spit out everything, resetting his slime time debuff. Melee that are inside the gunk, make sure you are staying aware of your position, because you can walk out behind the boss, who does leave a slime trail that does a massive amount of damage. It's just a fun little way you can kind of cheese out the mechanics. If your healers are having a hard time keeping up, maybe spread out some hunters throughout your group with Aspect of the Wild. The nature damage resistance that provides is really useful and can help mitigate a lot of damage. This fight is about constant movement, but there are going to be times when you can just stop and hit the boss. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple fight. If you found this video helpful, do me a solid and like and share this with others. That way they can use these same tips as well. If there's a better strategy that your guild has used, I want to hear about it down in the comments below. Otherwise, you can take a look at our recent kill of the Festering Rotslime and see kind of how things can go wrong. As always, my name's Coyote. Happy adventures.
Stupid Coyote.